Eric Dalton thought he was meeting a 14-year-old girl for a quiet night of pizza and movies. Instead, he walked into a house wired with hidden cameras and straight into the path of Chris Hansen. In a sleepy suburban neighborhood in Ohio, nothing ever seemed out of the ordinary. Rows of identical houses lined the streets, each with neatly trimmed lawns and welcome mats at the front doors. Children rode bicycles in the afternoons. Families barbecued on weekends, and neighbors waved politely to one another. But behind the doors of one particular home on a quiet cul-de-sac, something far more serious was taking place. It wasn't a family dinner or a friendly gift. It was the set of a carefully planned sting operation, one that would soon expose a man hiding dangerous secrets. Inside the house, everything was arranged to seem welcoming and lived in. A few coats hung near the entrance. Shoes sat casually by the door. In the kitchen, a light buzzed faintly, illuminating a counter stacked with disposable cups and snacks. At first glance, nothing looked unusual. But hidden within the walls and furniture were tiny surveillance cameras, all connected to a monitoring station in the next room. A crew of professionals, trained and focused, watched the screens closely. They knew someone was coming. And they knew he thought he'd be meeting a 14-year-old girl alone in the house. 4 days, the decoy and adult working undercover had been chatting with a man online who used the name Their exchanges began innocently enough. He claimed he was just looking for someone to talk to, someone who understood him. But the tone shifted quickly. Soon he was asking personal questions, steering the conversation in an unsettling direction. When the decoy mentioned her age, Todd didn't back off. Instead, he became more persistent. He started suggesting they meet in person. He offered to bring food, said they could hang out, watch a movie, just have some fun. Every message was cataloged, every detail saved. He talked about what he'd wear, how long he could stay, what he'd do if someone walked in. The operation team watched it all unfold, step by step. Once the date and time was set, the crew prepared the house. The decoy's messages were designed to keep the target comfortable, even eager. The front door would be unlocked, she said, and he could come right in. She mentioned being hungry and craving pizza, something small enough to sound innocent, but specific enough to confirm his intentions when he showed up. It wasn't just about catching him in the act. It was about removing all doubt. He had to walk in freely, thinking he was alone with a child. As the sun began to set on the evening of the meeting, tension grew inside the house. Everyone was in place. The cameras were rolling. The fake teen had just stepped out for a moment. The trap was armed, silent, waiting. Outside, the street was still. A few porch lights flickered on. Dogs barked faintly in the distance. Then, just before 8 p.m., a car turned the corner. It slowed near the house and pulled into the driveway. The man stepped out, holding a pizza box in one hand and a bag in the other. He paused for only a second before walking toward the door. He was right on time. The man stood at the doorstep, shifting slightly on his feet as he balanced the pizza box and plastic bag filled with sodas. He looked around once, briefly scanning the quiet street behind him. Porch lights glowed faintly on nearby homes, but no one was outside. It was the kind of neighborhood where people kept to themselves after dark. The man, whose name was later revealed to be Eric Dalton, wore jeans and a hoodie, his face expressionless. Though his eyes betrayed a flicker of nervousness, he took a deep breath, then reached out and tapped twice on the wooden door, just as he'd been instructed in the chat. The door wasn't locked. He turned the handle and stepped inside without hesitation. The interior was warm and quiet. To his left was a small hallway leading to the kitchen, where a single ceiling light cast a yellow glow over the room. There was no sign of the girl he thought he'd be meeting. No voices. No footsteps, just silence. He walked further in, glancing around. On the dining table was an empty plate and a couple of napkins, placed there to support the illusion that someone had prepared for his arrival. He called out softly, expecting a reply. None came. Instead, he placed a pizza box on the table and pulled the sodas from the bag. He lingered for a moment, looking around again. The house felt too clean, too still. Something about it didn't quite sit right, but he didn't back out. Instead, he adjusted the sleeves of his hoodie and stood awkwardly by the table, waiting